Welcome everybody to this JMC weekly webinar, Discipline Reporting in JMC Office. It's October 13th, 2021. In the spirit of full disclosure, I will let everybody know I have a bad cold, so you might hear me sniffling a little bit through this particular training as we go through it here. So fall is officially settled in here, at least a little bit here in Southeast Minnesota. And this cold, blustery weather day has given me a cold. But let's get right into it. My name is Paul Freed. I have over 20 years of educational experience. I'm joined by Liz Deen, lead PBIS coordinator for the Southwest West Central Service Cooperative in Marshall, Minnesota. She has Sarah McAdams with her today. And as I said prior to starting this particular webinar, that Liz reached out to me and said, we've got some JMC schools that do PBS, and we want to see how JMC reporting can help support them. So that's what got this particular webinar going. And I always appreciate when people reach out to me with ideas for training, because this is a great way to produce resources for our schools. The discipline module is a great tool for tracking student behavior incidents. Liz Deen would like to chat about how discipline module and discipline reporting in particular can help schools who are implementing PBIS procedures. Here's what's on the agenda. First, PBIS Introduction with Liz Deen. She put some great slides together, which I'll show. Discipline module overview, discipline summary report utilization. That's the main report that we're going to focus on. And also then PBS and discipline summary report discussion, kind of a wrap up at the end and let people ask some questions. So please hold all your questions until the Q&A session at the end of each section. If you do need to communicate with the host, feel free to use the Q&A chat feature in your webinar toolbar, and I will bring those up as we go. So PBIS Introduction with Liz Deen. Liz and Sarah, sorry about that, Sarah. What is PBIS and how long have you been working with PBIS? And I know you sent me some slides, so let me bring those up and I'll show those right away, and you can unmute yourself and you can kind of walk me through it here. So let's go here. And I think I can go right from I can present. Here we go, Liz. All right, so Liz or Sarah, go ahead and take it away.
Sure, welcome. Well, my name is Elizabeth Deen, and I have been in education over 20 years as well. I've worked with PBIS for over 10 years and 3 years in this particular role. And everything that we do through PBIS is grant funded. And so there's free PBIS regional supports for school teams. And I just wanted to touch base today. And then we have Sarah as well. If you can click the next slide, please. Sarah is here, and I don't know if Sarah is able to unmute or not. But Sarah is here, and she supports our team and really works with schools on external coaching and how do you implement things if you're looking at data and analysis or taking the TFI or have some specific questions. She can help with that as well. I think most people on here probably know what PBIS is, but really it's a framework that's based on the belief that appropriate behaviors can be taught. And it's really designing that framework based on evidence-based behavioral interventions and thinking about it in that triangle and that continuum of different practices to enhance academic and behavior outcomes. Next slide, number 6. You can just click down to 6 if you want.
Or to be able to behind the scenes quickly. So Sarah, can you hear it? Can you jump in now, Sarah?
Yes, I can. Thanks so much.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here and kind of learn a little bit about JMC and how we can kind of incorporate that throughout PBIS.
Great. There we go. All right. So keep going there, Liz. Yeah.
So also PBIS, and one of the reasons we wanted to have this here is we all know that data is one of those key pieces of PBIS and emphasizing. And so really thinking about how you can use that data for decision making. And if you're using JMC, what does that actually look like? Next slide. So many of us know that PBIS isn't definition in the state statute. And if you click the next slide, it'll just show you where it is if you wanted to look it up, and click the next slide, please. In summary of that, you're really looking at 6 core components. And one of the biggest components of PBIS is really that database decision-making. And that's where JMC really comes into play, or other management systems if you have it, but you're on here probably because you have JMC. And so thinking about how do we actually do this? We have our expectations, we've taught them, we've practiced them, we're acknowledging students and those positive behaviors and giving lots of feedback. We have our consistent and supports in place to support students for their individual needs and or our group needs. We have a continuum of interventions. They're integrated, they're aligned. to ensure that academic success. We have our team, our PBIS team works hard to do this, but are we looking at data? Are we looking at it consistently? Are we using that data to inform where we want to go and what we're going to change? If things are working, yay, celebration. If they're not working, can we dig deeper to figure out what kind of system level changes do we need to make, or student level changes if that's what the data suggest? So many of us know those research-based outcomes. And when we do and implement PBIS, which has been around for over 30 years, there's a plethora of research. We know that we can have improved student outcomes, reduce disciplinary, exclusionary practices, and improve teacher outcomes. And the key one that we want to really look at here is those reduced exclusionary discipline. And so those office discipline referrals often will go down. Suspension rates typically go down, and we have a lower rate of restraint and seclusion in school. And so thinking about how can we use that data so we can have these intended outcomes as well. How can this,
Keep on going. Yep, absolutely. Yep.
is that in there? How can discipline submissions from educators and office reporting be helpful with PBIS implementation? Is this a different question that you have later? I think it might be.
Yep, but you keep on going. Yep.
Oh, okay. So what we're looking at today is we really have those 3 types of data in PBIS. Many of us are really familiar with effort data and thinking about progress monitoring, thinking about our self-assessment survey, walkthrough, school climate surveys, opinion surveys that we all do. We often collect fidelity data as well. We're looking to say, hey, are we doing what the framework outlines us to do, what the research says we should be doing? There's lots of different tools. But the key today is really looking at outcome data and really saying, are your systems working? Is what we're doing working? And how can we look at some of those pieces? And so we're really probably looking more at those office discipline referrals, majors and minors, and in different categories. And how do we use that to support what we're doing or to change directions? Again, looking at that office discipline referral data, they're going to likely talk about some different types of data that we could look at. And I circled the average referrals per day or month, or looking at, how many referrals do we have? This is a really simple thing that hopefully they kind of tell us how we can do this, of really printing that each month when you go to your PBIS meeting and dedicating 10 to 15 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, whatever it is, to actually talk about it. What does it look like? What does it look like from last month? What does it look like from 3 months ago? What does it look like from a year ago? And some of you who have been doing this for many years likely can pull up data from previous years and really do a comparison across years. Now, if we have to dig deeper, they're going to likely talk to us about how can we dig into different areas if we need to really dissect this a little bit and really kind of do some precision problem statements. Next slide.
And I think, let me just make sure that we're on track, because you're right. I want to make sure I've got these as we let them. Great. And then, great. Here we go. Actually, we'll come to this one a little bit later. So we're right on track. Does that sound good? Let's see if anybody has any questions before we move on. That was really helpful for me, Liz, because I'm new to PBS. I mean, I think if somebody asked me about it, I could come up with a little bit of a statement about it. But it's helpful to see the different tiers you have there, and also the different the outcomes that you have there as well, and how what you're trying to reduce and how that data can help lead to reduction as well. So I don't see any questions that came in. So how about if we go into now the discipline module, because Liz is new to the discipline module, and maybe some of our clients are as well. So I thought I'd give just an overview of what it does overall, and then we'll get into the report that I was looking at. So let's go to there. So JMC's discipline module gives your district the ability to track student discipline records. It also works together with JMC Teacher in acquiring discipline referrals from teachers and provides discipline information to families through JMC Family. Administrators can run a variety of reports to better understand student behavior patterns and tally incidents for state reporting needs. The discipline module is JMC office is broken into two sections, data and reports. To get started, you'd log into the JMC office and head to the discipline module to view its features. So there's the data menu. So entering, editing, and customizing disciplinary actions and infractions is really quick and easy for teachers and administrators. You can view current and past discipline records as well as accept new records. The data menu is made up of 4 key pages. So in essence, data is entering data, reports is running reports on that data. So the first thing we have is the edit student discipline screen. That's really your one-stop shop for student discipline history. You'll be able to view discipline records for the current and prior school years, so which is pretty sweet. So you'll see the current ones here, and then all the prior ones as well for student by student. You'll see a complete view of the student's permanent record, and you can enter new or edit existing discipline records. Then we also allow you to edit problem behaviors and edit actions. That problem behaviors is a list of common discipline infractions for your school. We have predetermined ones at the top here, but you also can edit and create user-defined problem behaviors to customize the module for your needs. You can view JMC's preloaded non-editable list of discipline problem behaviors here as well. So this is kind of the ones that are hard-coded in, and you can add any ones that you want. The same as with the edit actions as well. It's a list of common consequences resulting from the discipline infractions. You can edit and create user-defined problem behaviors or end actions, and also do the preloaded non-editable ones as well. Then we also have merged discipline referrals. You can review discipline referrals from teachers and convert them to formal discipline records. So the JMC teacher allows teachers or educators to create a discipline record and send it in. Then you can accept or reject disciplinary referrals submitted by teachers via JMC Teacher. You can view a student's previous problem behavior totals while accepting new referrals. So what it allows you to do is this comes in for this particular student here. We've got Alexis. There was an issue of disrespect. While you're doing that, if there's any previous problem behavior totals, like how many times have they had disrespect or a dress code violation, or whatever it might be, that'll be listed up here. Additionally, you can send the disciplinary records to a student's primary contact, advisor, or referring teacher as well. This is one of the features. I was just actually at an elementary school yesterday, said they love this feature, that before they accept it, they can actually check a box to send it to the parents, send it to the referring teacher, send it to the advisor, or anybody as well. It keeps everybody in the loop about what's going on with that student when it comes to any type of behavior situation. And then we have the reports menu. The discipline module provides both detail level and summary level views of your students' discipline records through these reports. 3 reports. First is the student report. This is the one that you probably would think of most commonly, right? It's just for a student. This report is on student infractions with each student on a separate page. You can view your student discipline records in one report for any date range that you want here within the school year, and you can print a report for one student or a group. I would say probably 95% of the time it's done for one student at a time. You can include comments, and also you could email this to somebody if you wanted to as well. Then we've got the discipline query. This is an older report, but it says, hey, how many kids have done this particular action, right? So this reports on a student's matching your selection criteria. You can query a specific problem behavior and or consequence in a date range, right over here. There's a selection criteria to include a number of occurrences, which problem behaviors and actions, which reporting persons, and other sorting detail as well. So if you want to say, hey, I want to see all the actions here, but I want them sorted a specific way, you can do that here as well. And then there's the discipline summary. That's what I'm going to focus on next. So really briefly, this is a report summarizing subtotals by a variety of breakdowns. The summary of all of our students or for a specific date range. Summary includes breakdowns by problem behavior, action, and reporting person. You can view the total number and percentages of discipline referrals with the bar graph for easy review of the data. So before I get into the report that we're talking about here, does anybody have any questions about the JMC discipline module overall? If you're not using it, it's a great module to think about doing. I've got a weekly webinar on this topic on discipline and communication as well. I think it's at the end of August. That will give you the whole overview and how to use each specific step here in depth, but this was just meant to be an overview. So, all right, looks like people have any questions. They want to get to the most important item here, which is the discipline summary report utilization. The discipline module in JMC Office has a variety of reports to give you a high-level view of student and school-wide discipline records. Use the discipline summary report to print a synopsis of student problem behaviors and actions for a specific date range or for the entire year. This report shows the total number and percentages of discipline referrals with a bar graph for easy review of the data. Log into JMC Office and head to Discipline, Reports, Discipline Summary right over here. in JMC Office to start analyzing behavior. Step 1, select the type of report you'd like to run in the report drop-down list. So you saw in here some things that kind of matched what Liz had for some of her items that she had there as well on those graphs there. Step 2, select a grade level range to include in your report using the from and to drop-down list. This actually is a new feature in the last, I'd say, 6 months, because I went to some of our elementary schools or high schools, but particularly an elementary school in Bangor, Wisconsin, said, "Hey, our second grade teachers want to know where are they struggling." So sure, the elementary school is struggling in a certain way, or kids are having some issues with discipline as a school, but we want to see by grade level. So that was pretty sweet there. And then a fun fact, even grade 0 subgroups can be selected in the from and to drop-down list to better filter which students should be included in the report. So, if you've got your preschoolers are separate from your kindergartners, you can run a report based on that. Then step 3 is select the all or date range radio buttons to indicate the time span for your report. All, of course, will all discipline records for the school year. And the date range, enter a start date and end date in the calendar fields to narrow the information included in the report to just the date range specified. When semester 2 comes around, or try to, some schools like to kind of have a start over a little bit to see how students are doing. Fun fact, find out which discipline items in a grade level are the most frequent over any date range. So step 4, click the preview button to preview the report. Step 5, click the print button to print a copy of the report. So let's take a live look at utilizing that discipline summary report here. Come over here and we'll go under discipline, reports, discipline summary. I can say whatever I want here. So referrals by problem behavior or by day of the week or whatever. But I typically, when I'm doing an example, not necessarily for PBIS, because this is my first one for PBIS, I'll do it by problem behavior. I'll do all, and I'll preview that. And this will show me over the entire school year by bar graph how many we've had, and then the percentage, the number of referrals, and the percentage as well. So Liz, if you want to unmute yourself here, this would be helpful. If you want to kind of jump in, and I don't mean to be jumping ahead to, because I know I ask you in the future how it can be used, but what particular reports here do you think would be most helpful for JMC schools that are doing PBS? Is there ones on this list? Are they all equally helpful, or any thoughts on that?
So I think it really depends on what they're looking for. So some of the things that you may want to think about, certainly problem behavior is important, but when we're looking at maybe drilling down a little bit
Yep.
and looking at precision problem statements, what's really going on, sometimes I start with things such as more like grade,
Yep.
right? So if you were to click on grade, and let's say we were in a whole K-12 building.
Yep.
When we glance at this really quickly, I can easily see that first grade, and it looks like 10th grade has a lot more referrals than the other. So maybe we would focus in on that first grade a little bit,
Yep.
and could even looks like change that to say the grade level for
Yep.
just first grade. And then maybe we would look at the problem behaviors perhaps
Sure.
and say, well, what kind of behaviors are going on in first grade? What's really taking place? And now I can really start saying, oh, wow, it's disrespect, and there's some non-compliant type of behaviors that are really insubordination, defiance, and then we start looking back at our definitions that we've defined that to say, hey, do we need to look at this a little bit further? Can we look to see how many kids is this? It looks like it's about 7. What's our time frame? And this is probably an example school, but let's say you have more than 7 kids. Let's say when we start delving in a little deeper, we're talking about 24 different kids in first grade. Now we start saying it's not really a kid problem. It's probably when we have more than 10 kids in a date range, we're talking about more of a systems issue. So could that first grade team take a look at maybe some of these referrals and say, where is some of this happening? You know what I mean? Is it happening in the classroom? Is it on the playground? Is it in the lunchroom? Do we need to zero in on that and have our discussion be specifically about that playground or specifically about the lunchroom with the first graders in defiance, disrespect, and all of those different things? Now, what does that teaching look like versus saying, hey, let's have a whole school assembly. We're going to all talk about disrespect. Is it really the whole school, or is it really some of these different little pockets? So your team can really delve in a little bit deeper. Does that help a little
Yeah,
bit?
that's great, Liz. And I think if people have questions, they sure can type them in because we'll get to our question and answer here in a moment. But also, once you've got that first grade chosen, I think I come in and say, all right, like what's the location, right? Like you're talking about, and then, all right, the location is in the I'm unknown here because this is just demo ones that I put in here. But like you said, is it the cafeteria? Is it the classroom? What time of the day? So I think, and so this is exciting to me, Liz, right? Because I like want to help schools use this data, right? This is going to be able to help in a pretty quick time, and I think they could
Mhm.
find out, like you're saying, what who is having some issues, what is the major issue, where is that issue occurring, what time of day, and to drill down to that information there.
Exactly. And the thing that I really like about this when you're looking at this is that's also informative. When you went back and said unknown location, that informs your PBIS team to say, hey, do we not have all the locations
Yeah.
noted on our referral?
Yep.
And so when we read through some of those, and if you're looking at this monthly or at PLC meetings as a perhaps a grade level team, even, you might say, wow, that location is actually library and library is not even on here,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So do we need to add library on there? And so sometimes that unknown can be really informative. We often will see unknown when we look at like motivation, right?
Sure.
What is the perceived motivation? Oftentimes teachers will say, I don't know, I don't know. And so that informs us as a PBIS team to say, oh, should we be training people on, how do you determine what maybe is a perceived motivation? So there's different things in referrals that we can look at. So don't get too thrown off if you ever see something that says unknown or NA, sometimes we'll see. That's a great thing for a PBIS team to really tackle and think about how can we make it better so that it's more clear.
Liz, I like how you turn the lemons into lemonade. I like that, right? Right? Unknown, perfect. That's an area of growth. I love it, and that's true, right? That helps folks there. They also could use, and again, this is new to me, Liz, but that's where you could also come in with that discipline query and say, hey, I want to see all my first graders. What are who are they? What are those first grade occurrences here? And I want to sort them by severity or action or whatever, or motivation, right? And then I could come in and I could preview that, and that's going to show me all these different students here of who those specific students are. And one thing that I always try to remind folks in JMC about that who use JMC is you can have multiple screens open at the same time. So if you're wanting to know, hey, who's the kids that are in first grade that are having this issue, you can come here to your discipline summary. I can control click or right click. I can run this discipline summary. This is what I would envision. They'd come here to our actions by problem behavior, like you were saying. They'd preview this and say, all right, we got a bunch of these. Let's see what grade level here is. So I'd come down to my grade level and I'd preview that and I'd see all right, that's my first graders. And then I'd run to my first graders here. And then if they want to say, all right, well, all right, here's the issue with the first graders. Well, who are those first graders or whatever that are having, by that grade level there? Sorry, that would be back to our problem behavior. Then I want to see who are these kids that are have these referrals. That's where I could use my discipline query to actually see who those students are with the detail that's attached to those particular ones that are listed there. Great. Well, Liz, I've learned a lot already. I don't see any questions in our Q&A item here. Excuse me, my sniffles there. So I think we'll just keep on rolling here. So PBIS and discipline summary report discussion here. So Liz, how can you tell users how the JMC discipline summary report can assist with JMC users with the PBIS implementation? I think we've talked about that, right? I do want to bring up your slides because, you did such a great job of presenting them. So let's at least run through them and then see if anybody has any questions here. So did you want to highlight any of these or do you feel good about it, Liz?
So we kind of shared some of these things. And I think one of the key things that kind of came out just when I was glancing is really thinking about your majors and minor behaviors. In PBIS, you've identified what they are. And it looks like on JMC, you're able to go in and add those specific behaviors because they have some that are already populated.
Yep.
You could actually put them in. So they have them operationally defined on most PBIS teams. And so this is a great way to kind of look at that if you wanted to note it as a major or kind of a minor and keep that separate. If you need help, feel free to reach out to us. The other key pieces is really consider using that discipline summary report to be reviewed monthly at your PBIS meeting. So Could you have the secretary print that? And you bring it to your meeting and you have that dedicated 5 to 10 minutes. They talked about looking at those referrals in different areas, and perhaps could that be done at a PLC meeting? So if we had grade level PLC meetings monthly, can they pull it up for their grade level? Can we maybe train somebody from each grade level to be able to look at that data? Or is there somebody in your school that needs training to maybe talk to JMC, right? And how can I pull that out for different grade levels? What could we specifically pull out to have those conversations? And then how could we share this with our entire staff, at least quarterly? Celebrating those successes, celebrating time to maybe even having time to get feedback on, do we need to do some new approaches? Is there anything alarming sticking out as a school? Certainly probably not bringing up student names with the entire staff, but certainly looking at your whole school. This is, there's lots of key pieces in JMC that fit in very neatly with the research-based PBIS data and analysis. And just remembering that it's really important to schedule data to be looked at monthly, using it to guide those next steps. What do we actually want to focus on? That we're not just thinking about random things, we're actually doing things that perhaps we can measure and look at to see, is it actually working? Is it getting better for those students?
Yeah, and I like that idea, that Liz, that you talk about, celebrating the successes, because we at JMC have the idea that we want a student information system that helps students succeed by allowing users to have an easy to use platform, great support, and the tools that they need. And so I like that because, if nobody wants to just focus on the negative, and that doesn't help staff or students in the long run. So, but by being able to look from the last month to this month, here's our struggles, but here's where our successes are. And it doesn't take long to run those reports to see where, if you're putting the effort in, where those successes are going to come. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
Perfect. And this is what we mentioned before, was those example precision statements. So you're thinking about JMC, and this is what we talk about in training. JMC, you can do the same thing. You can really start looking at what's happening. There's 25% more ODRs for aggression, or there's 57 ODRs for aggression, or whatever it is that you say. You can identify, where is that actually happening? Who is this? How many kids is it? Are we talking more than 10, less than 10? Is it a systems issue if it's more than 10? Is it a kid issue that we probably need to just work with those kids when it's less than 10 when we go down? When is this happening? And then I like that query report where you can actually start looking at why. What's the motivation? And again, if your staff is saying unknown in that motivation, that just presents a great training opportunity. Perhaps with your social worker, maybe you on the PBIS team, maybe a school psychologist, even your EBD teachers probably have a pretty good handle on function of behavior, and kind of how do we try to identify some of that to see some patterns.
Absolutely. Great.
And this is just a reminder of using that data and what could that problem solving look like. So on your PBIS team, doing that precision problem statement, getting on JMC, pulling some of that information. Maybe this happens at a grade level team. You're setting that measurable goal of saying, whoa, we've got 57 referrals on the playground with first grade, and it's disrespect that's happening. It's primarily, jumping in front of other kids and doing some different things. What can we do? All right, let's do another rollout of that playground with the first grade. We're going to take them around to stations, reteach them those expectations. We're going to reteach them on some of the recognition systems and tickets they can earn. We're going to notice them doing all of these great things. We're going to assign specific paras to different locations on the playground to recognize those good things happening. All right, then our team a month later might go through and say, hey, did we do these things? Did we teach this? Did we do this? Did we give out tickets? And they're really monitoring the fidelity of all those things that we said we would do. And then maybe our team sits back down a month later or 2 months later, or 2 weeks later, whatever we decide, and we start looking at those referrals. What does first grade look like? Do we have 57 again in this month? Did we reduce that to 22? Great job, and really celebrate that. So thinking about how you can use that problem solving approach to using your discipline data within JMC on either grade level teams or your PBIS team, and starting with just one thing, not, tackling every problem in a school, but fix one at a time strategically.
Great.
And
All
I
right.
just put
Oh,
on
go
here,
ahead.
if you have any other questions about PBIS, I can't specifically probably help you with JMC because I don't have access to that. But any of those PBIS questions as you're digging in JMC and like, wow, what does this look like? Or how can we define this? Or we certainly can help with that. So.
Awesome. And if anybody, thank you, Liz. And before we wrap up, I want to point out one other thing about JMC that might be helpful. And then if folks have questions, they sure can type in. In JMC, we have the ability for teachers to send in communication items as well. And a lot of schools don't utilize this as much as they should, but the schools that do really find it helpful that they can come in here. It's right under the discipline module. I'm in the JMC teacher part now. I'm not in the JMC office. They can send in these communication submissions, and communication submissions are things that are not disciplinary. And the reason I bring it up there is that if you identified, 5 students in first grade that are struggling with disrespect, right? But you want to communicate the wins, you can do that because you come here and say, all right, we're going to take Emily, and I want to send to the office that Emily, had a great day today, or Emily didn't swear today, or whatever it might be. Like, Emily, didn't swear today. Of course, I'm making this up on the fly, but that what you can do is this can be sent to the office and brought in just like a discipline record. There just needs to be a detail there. Good job. You would type in more than I am here. Um, that gets sent to the office. And the cool thing is the office can set up so that other teachers can see these items as well. So it's a great inter-school communication tool, not related to discipline infractions. So just something else for schools to think about. If they're like, okay, gosh, yeah, we're using this PBIS stuff, but how do we as a school, especially like in the high school where kids are moving from one class to the next, we've got these 5, 6 kids that we really want to focus on supporting their positive behavior. The communication module can be a great way to be able to do that as well.
Can I
Great.
just comment on that? Because
Yeah,
that is really wonderful. So we really focus in PBIS on positive behavior
absolutely.
and really thinking about feedback and acknowledgement. We might have tickets and some of those different things, but
Mhm.
I could see where this could be a way to put a positive referral into the office, right?
Yep,
Because
that's right.
giving that communication, and it wouldn't just go to maybe the principal, it
Yep,
could go to some of their other teachers. So if
absolutely.
we're really working on following directions with a student and wow, they followed directions, here's what happened. Now think of all of the opportunities that next day for all those people who saw that to go and provide that additional behavior specific feedback to that student. Wow, I heard you did a great
Yep.
job following directions on this project. Keep up the great work. That's a great way to be respectful and responsible in your classroom. And so this is just awesome. This is a great tool. If you're not using that, to think about how could you use that?
Yeah, I talked to a teacher who told me must have been last spring, who said, they'll work with a kid and say, all right, Liz Dean, you have some problem with disrespect, but we're going to take it one day at a time. And they'll tell the 7th hour teacher, last teacher of the day, to check and see how that student's doing. And they would say to that student, hey, you've made it through 6 periods in this day and you've had a great day. Let's finish strong. And they can just go and check it out here. So it's a pretty sweet feature. Great. I don't see any questions here. So I think we'll keep on going and then wrap it up, Liz. This has been really, really exciting for me personally because, I, as a JMC trainer, I want schools not just to use JMC efficiently, but I want schools to help students be successful. And so I appreciate you taking the time. You and Sarah. Sarah's the quiet giant in the back there, right? First she couldn't talk, and then we allowed her to talk. And but I appreciate Sarah being part of us as well, and you guys putting together that really great presentation and meeting with us. So we have some, JMC news and upcoming events. Next week, I've got 2 Minnesota EdFi onboarding training sessions, and we've got on Wednesday, the getting ready for GATE. And then we've got creating the credit checker is in 2 weeks. And 3 weeks, the JMC Flex Scheduler, which is a pretty cool feature that allows students to choose a flexible learning time once a week or once a day, depending on how your schedule is set up. But that's a really great feature as well. And then preparing for snow days is going to be a vlog that we're going to do here on our farm here in southeastern Minnesota. So it's back now through December 2021. We're offering schools a discount to refer their friends. For every school you refer to JMC that signs up for our software, we'll give you a $500 scholarship for your district. And you can email us if you have questions there as well. And we're also hiring client service specialists. We're looking for 6 passionate part-time client service specialists in Nebraska, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. As a client service specialist, you'll develop meaningful relationships with our users through communication, training, and support. In return, we offer a competitive salary and an opportunity to work remotely. So you can read the full job posting for further details or apply by emailing hr@jmcinc.com. So I know if you've been a part of our other weekly webinars, you know that Brett Joyce joins us a lot, and he is a former teacher, principal, and superintendent in southern Minnesota. That works for us as well. Be social with us through Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and our blog as well. And I do see that there is a question that came in here. Jaquel says, when is the August JMC training? I'm not quite sure, Jaquel. You might have to give me a little bit more information on that one, of the August one. Is there a topic that you were looking for? You can sure type it in, and I can tell you what which training that you're looking for. If you're looking for any previous trainings at JMC, you can go out to YouTube and you can search JMC training. And when you go search JMC training, it'll bring you to our home screen. I like to go to the videos area right here. And on the videos area, it shows all the previous videos that we've had. You can click this little spyglass here, or this little magnifying glass, and type in any topic. So like I'm going to have this one posted here this afternoon. You can search discipline or PBS and it will come up for you. And here's all of them here. So if you wanted to see what the August trainings were, you could come down here and look for 0819 or, oh, yeah, I got you. You're looking for the discipline one. I bet you that's what you're going to tell me. I see the question count. You're referring to an in-depth training that was held at the end of August. Thank you, Shakel. I appreciate that. I was thinking about that as well. So that is this one right here, understanding discipline and communication right here. So I'm actually going to copy the link address and I'll just put it in here and I'll send it to everybody. And then everybody will have that one as well. But if you are watching this on YouTube, you could search 08, 25, 21, understanding discipline and communication. I always present those two modules together because as Liz affirmed, right, one is the tracking, but this helps us get to that next step, which is supporting that positive behavior as well. So Jaquel, thank you so much for not only asking me about that, but reminding me what I was telling folks about. So Liz, Sarah, thank you so much for your time. This is going to be a great resource, not just for our Minnesota clients, but we have clients all throughout the United States. So I appreciate that very much. And I'll hang on for a little bit as well and see if anybody has any questions. If not, we'll sign off. So thanks, Liz. Thanks, Sarah. Have a great day.